everyone, welcome back. Today I am going to be talking about the best books that I read in 2019. Now that doesn't mean that all of these books were published in 2019, it just means that I read them in 2019. I've got 16 favorite books to go over with you, and let's just get started. Coming in at number 16 is The Light We Lost by Jill Santopolo. This is about Gabe and Lucy, and it is one of the most heartbreaking books that I have ever read. It initially starts out with 9/11 and two people who are in college who meet each other on the worst day the world has ever seen. And shortly after that, their timing just never seems to be right. They fall in love and they meet other people and they have their own lives. And the last fourth of this book is, I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to explain anything. You need to go into this blind. It will completely break your heart, but it is so good. Coming in at number 15 is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think everybody has heard of this book by now. I'm not going to go into huge specifics, but this does have LGBTQ rep in it, and it is just so good. Evelyn, I loved her storyline, I loved her character, I loved everything she went through, and it was just so neat to see the behind the scenes of a famous person, and it seemed very realistic. I really enjoyed this book. Highly recommend. Coming in at number 14 is a little bit controversial. This one is The Friendzone by Abby Jimenez. So many people don't like this book. I personally loved it. This is about Kirsten and Josh. Kirsten and Josh. She basically puts Josh in the friend zone, even though he really likes her, for a very specific reason. And it is so sad throughout the book, but so heartwarming in the end. That was my kind of book. I know a lot of people did not like the ending. I personally loved it. I love a happy ending. That's why I read books. I mean, if I want a sad ending, I can just go into my life. I loved this book. Highly recommend. Coming in at number 13 is actually a series. It's the Hello Goodbye series. There's Goodbye Paradise, and there is Hello Forever. Goodbye Paradise is the first book. This is so good. This follows Josh and Caleb. These are both male romances. And I adored these characters. I adored what they went through. It is dealing with cults and growing up in a very religious household. I completely understood where these characters were coming from. I really, truly loved the series. It was steamy and innocent and sweet, and I love the series. Coming in at number 12 is a book that I recently read and I have fallen in love with, and that is Lingus by Mariana Zapata. So I wasn't as huge of a fan of some of her other books that everybody else loves, but this book is so good. It is about Catherine and Tristan. Tristan is also known as Robbie Lingus. He is a porn star, and she goes to a porn convention and they have this hilarious witty banter with each other, and it's just like this instant connection, but it's like a friendship connection, and they end up becoming really close friends, and it's kind of a slow burn friends to lovers romance, but it's hilarious and funny, and the whole porn star thing is just such a unique trope that I had never read before. I truly love this book. Coming in at number 11 is Easy by Tamara Weber. This is about Jacqueline and Lucas and their story. This is a new adult romance, and it is focused around a girl who is almost sexually assaulted at college. Lucas is the guy who saved her from that sexual assault, and they form a friendship that goes into a relationship. It is sweet and heartwarming and sad at parts, but very good. And at number 10 is Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. This is about the Four Horsemen, and the first one is going to be about Pestilence, who is basically coming in and trying to kill everybody off through disease. This book was oddly emotional for me. I cried so much during this book. Just hearing what the main character, the female character, went through and what Pestilence put her through. Oh my gosh. So many parts I'm going, how in the world could this ever be a romance? But it was, and it was so good. So good. Coming in at number 9 is probably going to be my most controversial best of books, and that's going to be After by Anna Todd. Yes, I am obsessed. This is my book crack. I love this series so much. This is about Tessa and Hardin. There's movies out. I think everybody knows what this book is about. You do not want a relationship like this. It is toxic, it is bad, but I can't quit reading it. It is so good. Her writing just draws you in and it keeps you there, and just whenever you think you cannot forgive Hardin, you do, and then you wonder how in the world can somebody write like this, and then you wonder how in the world can a girl like fall for a guy who's like this, and then you start thinking of all the abusive relationships out there and go, oh, well, that's the reason why. Because if it's anything like this book, I could totally understand why somebody would get stuck in this relationship. It is just so addictive. This book is so good, and that's all I can say. It's my book crack. Coming in at number 8 is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is no surprise. I am a Penelope Douglas fan. I love this book. Age gap romance with the girl and her boyfriend's dad. Total taboo. Love this kind of book. This was right up my alley. It was one of the very first things I read this year, and I just was so excited to get into it and read it, and it was just as good as I thought it would be. Love this book. Coming in at number 7 is All We Ever Wanted by Emily Giffin. This is the only book that isn't a romance per se. Well, actually, no. The Light We Lost is also kind of like that. The Light We Lost and All We Ever Wanted are the 2 non-romance books that I have in my list, and I really enjoyed this book. It is also about a girl who is in high school and she is sexually assaulted, and there's a video and it goes out and everybody sees it, including her dad and including the guy who assaults his mother. And his mother made all the difference in this book. It is so good. It questions what to do in a case where there is a girl who is sexually assaulted. It questions the motives of the guy, and that's all I can say. Like, really, the mother of the guy who did this made all of the difference. She is one of my very favorite heroines in any book of any time ever. I loved her. I thought that what she did was realistic and sad and heartbreaking, and it was just so good. Coming in at number 6 is To Love and Hate series by Ella Mace, and that is To Love Jason Thorne and To Hate Adam Connor. I loved both of these books so much. So good. I highly recommend the audiobook on the Audible Escapes package. If you have that, highly suggest reading it. It is so cute. It is about a guy who is famous, and the first book is about a guy who's famous, and the girl is an author, and it just so happens that she wrote a book that is going to be now auctioned up and is going to become a movie, and the main guy who's playing it just so happens to be about the guy that she wrote the book about. It is so cute. I loved it. And then the second book is a romance about a guy who is also an actor, and he is a single father, and the single father scenes are just so adorable. But it is about the main girl in the first book, her best friend, and it is hilarious. The banter is good. I mean, he has her arrested at the very beginning of the book, so there is that. It is so interesting. I really enjoyed reading that series. I highly recommend anything by Ella Mace, really. I've listened to all 4 of her books that are on the Audible Escape package, and I highly recommend all of them. Coming in at number 5 is Weightless by Candy Steiner. This book was very emotional for me because obviously I'm a bigger girl, and I totally connected to this main character and what she went through and losing weight. And the main guy is this gorgeous personal trainer, kind of bad boy, and their story just connected with me. Was there some parts in this book that was just a little over the top? Yes, of course there was. But it was still very good. I highly recommend. Coming in at number 4 is Birthday by Meredith Russo. Was there any surprise that this book would be in my top list? I don't think so. I've talked about this book so much. I love this book so much. It is about a transgender woman and the love of her life, who just so happens to be her best friend that she's known for like their entire lives. They have the same birthday. Their parents have been best friends since, you know, their entire lives. And so it is their love story, and it is sad and heartbreaking and so very good. My top list would not be complete without a J.R. Ward book on it, so I'm going to add The Savior by J.R. Ward. This book was so good. This was like going back to my roots with this book. This is the writing that I have missed by J.R. Ward. It is just adorable. This is about murder, who I have been wondering about for years in the series. Oh my goodness. Okay. So Murder and Sarah, it is their love story. I don't want to get into it because if you haven't read J.R. Ward's books, this is like book number 19 or something outrageous like that. So you would just be completely lost. But Murder is one of the Black Dagger Brotherhood original members. He kind of went crazy and disappeared. And there has been talk about him from the very beginning of the series. But it was just kind of like little bits and pieces here and there. Just enough to leave us hanging, where we were just constantly wondering about him. But this book is just so good. Really, really enjoyed his character, and I loved his love story with Sarah. It brought back the original like 4 or 5 books in the series. That was how this book felt, and it just was like coming home. I loved the series. All right, everyone, we are getting into my top 2 favorite books of this year, and I'm so excited to talk about these 2 books. Coming in at number 2 is Loving Mr. Darcy by Brittany C. Cherry. This is a teacher-student relationship. It is angsty, it is sweet, it is sad, it is just so, so very good. I could not put it down from start to finish. It is unique and heart-wrenching, and just, it is so good. I highly recommend Brittany C. Cherry's books. If you haven't picked this book up, you need to. So my very favorite book this year is one that just wrecked me to pieces, and that's All Youre Perfects by Colleen Hoover. On this book, I've just about lost it. I cried my eyes out like a baby from start to finish. As you can see, there are a million tabs in here. I loved this book. It was so heartbreaking and so heartwarming and so sad and so beautiful. And the idea of this book was so very realistic to me, and this book was everything. I cannot wait to read it again. It just is so good. This needs to be a movie. Everybody needs to read this book. It is so good. That is my top 16 favorite books of the year. What are your top favorite books? What have you read this year that was just mind-blowing? Let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys very soon for my next video.